For 60 years, one car has basically defied time, keeping the exact same unmistakable shape. That sloping roof, those round headlights, and of course, that engine hanging out behind the back wheels. It's the Porsche 911, and its story is just a masterclass in perfecting a single, brilliant, and kind of crazy idea. So let's get into the engineering story behind this absolute legend.
And that's the fascinating thing at the heart of the 911, isn't it? Its whole design principle, putting the engine in the back it's fundamentally a bad idea for a high-performance car. I mean, by all logic, it should be a recipe for total instability. And yet, here we are, looking at one of the most successful and loved sports cars in history. That's the real question, right? How did generations of brilliant engineers take a layout that was prone to, let's say, difficult handling, and somehow turn it into a world-beating icon? Well, that's the journey we're about to take, and we're going to start right at the very beginning. To figure this out, we've got to go back, all the way back to 1963. See, this wasn't just about building a new car. It was about solving a very specific set of problems that would go on to define the 911 for decades.
The 911 wasn't just some random design they cooked up. It had a very clear mission. It had to be a huge leap forward from the car it was replacing, the beloved Porsche 356. It needed to be faster, way more stable, and something you could actually use every day, all wrapped up in a package that looked like it was from the future.
Okay, so this right here visualizes the core conflict, the central dilemma. Putting all that engine weight over the rear wheels gives you just incredible traction. I mean, it's amazing for launching off the line. But, and it's a big but, if you push it too hard into a corner, that exact same weight wants to act like a pendulum, and that creates a massive, massive risk. And that risk has a name: snap oversteer. And we're not talking about a graceful, controllable slide here. No, this is a sudden, violent spin that can catch even the best drivers completely by surprise. Taming this one single characteristic would become the #1 obsession for Porsche engineers for the next 60 years.
All right, now we're entering the legendary air-cooled era. This was the period where Porsche's engineers really wrestled with that fundamental problem. But then they decided to add a whole new, radical ingredient into the mix: turbocharging.
In 1975, this car completely changed the game. The 930 Turbo, with its giant turbocharger, was an absolute performance monster. But it was also famously tricky. You'd get this huge delay, and then, bam, a massive, brutal wave of power. It earned the terrifying nickname the Widowmaker, and it cemented its legend as a car that you had to respect or else. But here's the thing about Porsche. They never stopped refining. As you can see right here, the progress was steady, it was methodical. The 964 and 89 brought in modern stuff like anti-lock brakes and power steering, which made the car a lot more manageable. Then, the 993 came along in 94 with a really sophisticated new rear suspension that was specifically designed to fight the car's natural tendency to oversteer. And really, the 993 represents the absolute peak of that original air-cooled idea. It was the result of 3 decades of non-stop improvement, which is why it's probably the most sought-after classic 911 on the market today. But to survive, and to get even faster, the 911 had to make a huge, and I mean huge, controversial jump. This was the water-cooled revolution, a decision that made the purists furious, but was absolutely critical for the car's future. So why would they make such a dramatic change? Well, it wasn't about style or anything like that. It was pure engineering necessity. Emissions rules were getting way stricter, and customers were demanding more and more horsepower. Air cooling, which is basically like a motorcycle engine, had just hit its physical limit. Water cooling gave them the temperature control they needed to meet all these new challenges. And that brings us to this car, the 996. And yeah, the fried egg headlights, they were controversial for sure. But you have to look past that. This car was the critical pivot point. Its all-new water-cooled engine and chassis were the foundation that every single modern, record-breaking 911 would eventually be built on. And that new foundation just paved the way for the modern era. This is where things get really wild. This is where advanced technology didn't just tame the 911's weird layout. It turns that old challenge into an unbeatable weapon.
I mean, just look at how fast things evolved. The 997 brought back the classic round headlights and gave us the legendary GT3 RS. The 991 perfected the lightning-fast PDK transmission, shifting gears in milliseconds. And today's 992, Well, it's become the complete package. It's a true supercar that you can comfortably drive to the grocery store. And this right here gets to the heart of the modern 911. All of a sudden, you have electronic systems like stability control and torque vectoring that could predict and prevent that scary snap oversteer before it even happened. And this didn't just make the car safer, it let the engineers fully weaponize that rear engine traction, making the car launch harder and rocket out of corners faster than pretty much anything else on the road. So when you just kind of step back and look at the whole 60-year story, you see that it's not really about one single car. It's about a consistent, relentless philosophy of engineering. This is basically Porsche's secret recipe, boiled down into 4 key rules. First, they evolve. They don't just throw everything out and start over. Second, they take a fundamental flaw and through pure engineering genius, turn it into a defining strength. And through it all, they keep that iconic look while making sure the car is still something you can actually live with. And that's exactly why the 911's impact is so much bigger than just the road. It's a symbol of precision engineering. It's the benchmark that every other sports car on the planet is measured against. And it's a motorsport hero that has won everything from the 24 Hours of Le Mans to the brutal Dakar Rally. It's incredible when you think about it. The entire 911 story, from day one, has been about solving one ridiculously difficult problem. What started as a really risky design choice back in the 60s has, through sheer relentless refinement, become an absolute masterpiece. And that, right there, really says it all, doesn't it? The 911's enduring legacy isn't some happy accident. It's not about luck or nostalgia. It is the direct result of 6 decades of brilliant, focused, and totally unwavering engineering.